We are here with Jordan Reid, ESPN draft analyst, to talk about the scouting combine. So, Jordan, kind of starting off big picture, what are your overall thoughts about this draft class going in and being able to see them here this week?
Well, it is a offensive-centric draft. Everybody's going to talk about the quarterbacks at the top of the draft. The wide receiver class, I think, is very, very good. We could see as many as 7 go in the first round, which is an astronomically high number. And then offensive tackle. Everybody wants to talk about the offensive tackle class, and rightfully so. It's a really good class.
Speaking of quarterbacks, there's talk about being 4 to 5, kind of in that range going. I guess what are your thoughts about this quarterback class specifically, and who stands out the most to you about how this could end up in a couple months?
Yeah, well, there's going to be 3 guys at the top of the draft. Drake May of North Carolina, Caleb Williams, of course, of USC, and then Jay Daniels of LSU. Those are your 3 guys that you're really going to hear about at the top of the draft. But that 4th guy gets really, really interesting, whether it's J.J. McCarthy of Michigan, Bo Nix of Oregon, Michael Penix of Washington is another name that a lot of scouts like quite a bit. So this quarterback class is really interesting. It just depends on which traits that you like the most with all of those guys.
Kind of going back to looking at positions of strength and positions of weaknesses, what stands out about this draft class when it comes to positions of strength, but also positions of weakness where guys might fall and you kind of see just how it all shakes out?
Yeah, well, once again, the quarterbacks, receivers, and offensive tackles, it's not a great defensive class. I don't think we're going to get a defensive player inside of the top 10, which is something that hasn't happened in a very, very long time. But I like the depth of this cornerback class. And there isn't that Devin Weatherspoon or Derek Stingley or Sauce Gardner. We don't have that type of guy in the top 10, but top 15, 20, late 20s, I think we're going to see a lot of guys fly off of the board.
What stands out about the cornerbacks?
Well, we got some athletic guys. If you like watching the 40, you better have your stopwatch ready, just because these guys are going to fly. Kool-Aid McKinstry is one that I like in the back end of the first round, but there's going to be some other guys that really fly, whether it's Nate Wiggins of Clemson, Tyrion Arnold of Alabama is going to be a really good player, and then Quinion Mitchell of Toledo is an underrated name to watch.
Now, shifting to the Browns, kind of more Brown-centric, they have obviously later picks, but bigger picture, when you evaluate this draft class, what stands out about what could be positions of need for the Browns?
Well, once again, this is a really strong wide receiver class. I would love to see the Browns add another wide receiver just because they do have some weapons. Amari Cooper was phenomenal last year, but outside of that, Elijah Moore was a little bit up and down last year, but I would like to see them add another weapon to the room. So wide receiver, maybe somewhere on day 2 or day 3, they could look to add one. Maybe even early on, they could look to add one too. So I think with the Browns, they just need to add another weapon in that room. And then also on the defensive side, edge rusher. They need somebody. They don't have a lot of depth there.
Looking at the state of Ohio, Marvin Harrison stands out as from OSU. Yeah. There's a lot of OSU kids here this week, but him specifically, what just stands out the way that he is able to have such an impact, and him not participating this week, how does that affect things moving forward?
Well, he's the best player in the draft to me. That's how highly I think of Marvin Harrison Jr. He's not going to test here, unfortunately. We'll see what he ends up doing at the Pro Day, but if he doesn't do anything at Pro Day, it's completely fine with me. The tape is the tape at this point, but 6'4", 215 pounds, he moves. He's a big receiver that has the movement skills of a smaller wide receiver. There isn't anything that he can't do. He makes miraculous catches. He sinks his hips really well and gets in and out of his routes. In the end, he has fantastic hand-eye coordination to go up and catch the ball too.
Do you think there could be a shift, I guess, when it comes to guys not participating this week, or is this maybe a one-off kind of situation because he did participate last year in the Pro Day it wasn't eligible, but when he participated with CJ last year, so could that, do you see that as a potential change in the future?
For the higher-ranked guys, I can see it becoming a trend just because they're going to tell scouts, just look at the tape and watch what I did throughout the season. There's no reason I don't have anything to gain from performing anything at the Combine. I think Marvin definitely is in that tier of players. So I think it's more so of your guys that probably are projected to go somewhere in the top 15 to 20 to where we could see them not participate in the Combine moving forward. But day 2 and day 3 players, I don't think they're going to be able to afford to do that.
Last one, I think, for you. Who's a prospect that maybe is kind of underrated in your eyes that could really use this week to help his stock and really stand out come draft in April?
Ooh, he put me on the spot. One name I really like is Ricky Pearsall of Florida. He's one name that I like quite a bit. Transferred over from Arizona State to Florida, and he was an instant impact type of player. And I'm sure you have seen this highlight. You probably haven't noticed it was Ricky Pearsall, but he had a miraculous one-hand catch against UNC Charlotte down the seam, and I think he's going to be able to make those types of plays on the next level. So Florida wide receiver Ricky Pearsall, remember that name.
Awesome. All right, well, day 2 from Scouting Combine. Thank you so much, Jordan, for your time. It was really great to talk to you, and we'll have more moving forward.
Thank you as always.